Welcome in everyone to the Snap Judgements League. We are at week 3 here in the inaugural season. For those who do not know, my name is Guest, also known as ItsGuestGaming, and we've got some more games to cast, some more games to match up with and see what has actually happened. Now, some games are even still in progress, so if you're looking for any updates, if you're here on the live stream, you can type in !SJL. If you are over on the YouTube side of things, take a look in the comments down below. So let's hop into some big names, some big matches right off the bat. We are here live on Twitch. Everybody in the Twitch chat over on whatever side it is, say hi. You're more than welcome to come join us in this conversation. And I think we should start with a good friend today. Someone who I've worked with a lot. And needless to say, I am very, very scared of. Because I know, as Red Dragonfly, the opponent today, has definitely felt, it's a scary feeling anytime you have to go up against this man. So let's start there. Let's start there with Red Dragonfly versus the one, the only, the epic, the mythical, the very difficult to take down LambySeries. LambySeries and Red Dragonfly. Let's start it off. Let's get this all up and running for us. They're getting settled on in. Let's frame it, get it to fit, because we do this on the fly every time. Let's go. Here we go. Good luck. GG's. It's worth the background edits. Here we go. Good luck to you, Red Dragonfly. It's a very, very tough matchup. But considering that it is a mobile game first, I think it's only appropriate that we showcase it in its true original format, mobile. Right? Sounds fair? Sounds cool? Let's do it. So I'm not surprised to see LambySeries coming in with a, well, let's be honest, a Thanos deck. And kind of a, tough matchup in general because you're going up against such a legendary player. However, Red Dragonfly has brought in, and again, these games were recorded earlier in the week, so you see Apocalypse is still rocking a 6'8" stat line, who was recently adjusted for the OTA down to a 6'6". This is probably going to be the strongest potential chance for this version of Thanos to be taken down by somebody else. So, let's see how he does. Let's see how they both do here. Again, some of these games were recorded prior to the OTA. There's a snap that comes in prior to the OTA from Thursday, so we may see a couple of cards, as we know from Psylocke being adjusted from a 2-2 down to a 2-1. The Mind Stone is, in this game, going to be a 1-1 as Professor X from Lammy locks Nidavellir real quickly, gets the double card draw from Asgard, and Dracula is now waiting to absorb everything over in the Hellfire Club. Collector into Corvus Glaive and Asgard is a great recuperation for some stats. Both Morbius and Collector are going to be able to scale on up, even if it hits APOC and MODOK and ignores the Helicarrier. That Helicarrier is still going to be a very successful card that could be Drac absorbed later on. Oh, me, oh my, oh my. Tough call here, because that Jeff is flexible, but they decide to load on up there into the mid, playing the Power and the Cull Obsidian, knowing what the top ceiling is in Asgard. There's scale 1, and it hits the MODOK too, so they do end up with 3 cards. It's going to end up being a 50-50 into the Hellfire Club now. And this is a tough one here, because if they drop, for example, the Helicarrier into the mid, that's going to be enough to take Asgard. However, depending on the draw, Dracula in the Hellfire Club would shoot up to 17 if it hits the APOC. If it hits the Proxima Midnight, it would draw it and then also play it down into that lane 2. That would be a total of 14 more power, so 15's the number to beat by Lammy in Hellfire Club for security, with Helicarrier potentially going down into the middle lane. That would guarantee lane 1. Not sure about lane 2, because either way, remember, the Morbius is also going to go up +2, and instead They slide it, hoping that Jeff would slide over, but Lammy's coming in with a Mockingbird, a Blob, and a Jeff all into that lane. So even with the absorption and taking the risk for that Helicarrier to hit, it's not going to be enough in the right-hand lane. That's going to give 4 cubes to start us off here over to LambySeries with a big hit. Big hit to the deck right off the bat. Tough to see. Always tough to see in the very first match to lose and go down 4 cubes. And it's one of the toughest things to mentally to recover from, in my own personal opinion, when you have that first game of a match and you're already down 6 to 10. Let's see if Red Dragonfly here has what it takes to come back and take down the swarming LambySeries who's flooding his deck. Right now, Oscorp Tower probably favoring slightly over to Red Dragonfly because Lamby can't play into that with all those stones unless if he's looking for a clog mechanic bright and early. Turn 1 Mind Stone. Can we all have a moment of silence for the turn 1 Mind Stone? May you rest in peace. Thank you. And Lamby plays over into the Oscorp Tower, flipping it on over, saving his Reality Stone as the collapsed mine clogs both sides, essentially forcing both players to have to skip turn number 3 as Death's Domain reveals itself. Skipping turn 3 when you've got Helicarrier in hand and Collector in hand doesn't feel too bad. But you do have some recovery mechanics. You have 3 different discarding cards, all able to potentially hit that Helicarrier with Collector in your hand. The question comes, which one do you play out, when, and why? I like the notion of getting Corvus personally, but instead, they're taking the Lady Sif play. No? There we go. Collector, maybe even the Swarm to play on down, free up the hand a bit, because you're going to get that Corvus benefit potentially. 2 on turn 5. Let's see how Lamby plays out that Rest in Peace 2/2 Psylocke. And almost has the full rainbow additionally. And the Drac now in hand. So a little precarious of a choice to work with too, specifically if you're really rocking the Collector, because Swarm is positioned to the right of the Helicarrier. As Professor X secures the Death Domain for Lamby, now we're going to have all of the ramp come up, but Helicarrier is going to add to the deck first, and you're only going to get 1 Swarm in your hand at 0/3 because of the ordering. And lots of littles could end up being a benefit right now. Looking at Star-Lord, Quicksilver, Wasp, Corvus Quinjet. I mean, it's a very, very tight left-hand lane as Star-Lord gets his old +3 power, bringing him to a total of 4 as he's being reduced down from the Soul Stone. The Wasp is there just for a good time. Corvus Glaive going to be at 4 power. The number is 14 to beat. There's a Mockingbird and there's a Blob. 1, 2, skidamarinky-dinky-doo. Once again, that's another 2 cubes over to LambySeries benefit. It is 10-4 as the Mockingbird Blob combo takes another 2 cubes off of Red Dragonfly. Holding that Mockingbird to the very end always feels good. Secure the lane with Prof X, and then big swing on the final turn. With a Project Pegasus to open up an immediate snap simultaneously. Red Dragonfly is not scared, though. Looking at Meek, Collector. Ooh, and a Corvus Glaive. Corvus Glaive is not going to give the bonus if they play it. You're not going to get the +1 energy. Ooh, oh my. They are not going to be happy about seeing that, but most likely, as they don't get the energy bonus. Corvus Glaive has to discard 2 cards specifically to make that work that way. As Lammy opened up with Project Pegasus into Hope Summers and Psylocke and Mindstone. Probably the best potential hand Lammy could have ever asked for in this iteration of Thanos. Hence the immediate snap. Just goes for the simple light move of the Meek over. Soulstone drops and slides over to the left, clogging the Hope Summers lane just ever so slightly, with the Power Stone on top as well. Still nothing for Red Dragonfly to be able to do, but does get a little bit of a help. Little tiny bit of help with Lake Hellas temporarily, even though Lammy is still sitting on at least 3 more 1-cost cards. Now checking that Corvus and realizing, why can't I play my Proxima on turn 3? I should have the extra energy. That is 100% why. Just because the deck is good does not mean that it's an automatic win case. You have to look at the idiosyncrasies of certain cards and certain combinations, and missing out on that one specific play by Corvus is that one specific energy from Corvus, when it could have been held for the next turn, was definitely going to probably come bite somebody in the behind. As Lammy now has another great position to be able to Professor X on 5 here. You've got a flexible Jeff, only down 5 in Lake Hellas. Swarm might be able to put in some contest. And I like the call of putting it into the left, because right now it looks like Aunt May's is a Professor X location target, knowing that Jeff could move in there if they needed it to happen. Instead, he slides a Jeff all the way into Lake Hellas, takes a chance, secures it, gets the extra mana from Hope Summers, and, I mean, at this point, being down 2 in one lane and up 3 in the other, this is going to be very difficult for a 10-power helicarrier to guarantee it's a 50-50 shot, and that's assuming they don't have Blob. I think the retreat later is definitely the right way to go. Try to have the hero come back. You're down 10-2. And I think this is low stakes into the next round, because that, I believe, was round 3. Double check here. Yeah, round 4, 100%. Down to 2 cubes. I wouldn't be surprised to see a near immediate snap very early from Red Dragonfly. No, doesn't take advantage of it. And a Soul Stone for Lamby to start into the Baxter building. Throne Room is a scary location for Red Dragonfly. Knowing the top end with no defense in that deck, no Shang-Chi. There's the snap now. And there's the retreat. Smart retreat. It's the same amount of games in recovery if Lamby didn't feel like he had that ability right there. It's still going to be 5 games because he's up 9-2 instead of 8-2. And Sinister London here, depending on the pocketing of that Psylocke, could be a very dangerous location. Psylocke into Blob with Sinister London and only location control on Lammy's side of the battlefield is a very scary play. So let's see how he draws, as we now get the Abbey for extra card draw potentially. Mind Stone allows the card draws out the wazoo to happen. 1 for the Abbey, 2 for the Mind Stone, 2 collectors on, and a miniaturized lab now restricting the Sinister London reproductions. Before going hog wild, deciding to play in the Meeks to get all of the power. And Reality Stone flips the Sinister London into Sanctum Sanctorum, locking the left lane. Red Dragonfly now has a chance, thanks to all of the potential ramping in Sanctum Sanctorum. And Vision, for the first time, makes its appearance. No surprise to see Vision come in, but you need all of the discards all of the time right now to happen. And Collector's gotta hit Helicarrier or Swarm to have a chance. Proxima Midnight would land in Sanctum Sanctorum because Miniaturized Lab is going to restrict it. It would be 6 into the mid, and Proxima, even if it's hit second after a Swarm or Helicarrier, it should prioritize Sanctum Sanctorum for Proxima to land. Helicarrier would end up adding 4 cards, 1 discard. So actually, no, it would switch it. It would switch it. Jeff lands into Miniaturized Lab, Time Stone for the reduction, and here comes Corvus Glaive. It hits the Swarm first. That's going to add 1 discard and 2 onto the Collector. That'll change it to being a tie, and it doesn't hit the Proxima. This can be one for Red Dragonfly. Proxima plus Swarm in the mid, the other Swarm and the Quinjet into Miniaturized Lab. That ends up being a win, because Dracula will discard the Helicarrier and then put 6 cards into the hand. And instead of taking the ramp, he's looking to drop the Proxima into Sanctum Sanctorum, stealing the Abbey in the process that way. Both ways work. Does Lammy move forward with it? He does, as the Jeff slides into Sanctum Sanctorum. Here comes the Soul Stone, reducing down all 3 cards. Mockingbird plus Cull Obsidian plus a Space Stone fills the board on Lambie's side of the battlefield. Here he goes. Is it gonna be enough? Is it gonna be enough? The mid is gonna go to Red Dragonfly, dropping the Dracula, adding the 7, swinging the Proxima Midnight, and it hits on the left. It tiebreaker situation happens, and it just barely squeaks over for Red Dragonfly, who's still alive. Still alive against Lammy. 1 down, another 4 to go. Tight play right there. If there's any deck that's going to come back against OG Thanos, it's going to be discard. As Lammy converts over into Castle Blackstone now on the right-hand side, going to be working with 3 energy on turn 2. And a Cloning Vats with Collector in hand for Red Dragonfly, being gifted again. With Quinjet already on the board. Ooh, looking for the super greedy play. Collector Morbius, with all the discards still eligible in the hand. Add it up, add it up. Psylocke on 3. Gotta be careful here. Psylocke on 3. We are looking at a Professor X. Potentially. Knowing that the Cloning Vats already has 3 rampable cards in here, and you're sitting on Meek, Collector, and Morbius. This is a great opportunity to spread your resources, but instead, Dragonfly's going big, assuming that we're going to see it potentially in the left-hand side, and forgetting that Castle Blackstone's even a concern. This could pay off by leaving that one spot in Nova Roma if we see a Prof X. Nope, we see a Vision instead on that lane. 2 extra mana over to Lamby. As the collectors keep rising. Lamby gonna need all of the energy this turn. Now working with 8 energy on turn 5. Tight call here. Do you go with both discards and just sacrifice everything via the MODOK? Or look for the MODOK to be the final turn of the game because you're not rocking a Dracula? And he goes with the Corvus Glaive first into Meek second. That's a little bit of a misplay. There's lost opportunity for that second Meek to have power as Shang-Chi comes down for power exclusively into the Cloning Vats to get a second Shang-Chi eligible. Vision can still move. And a little bit of missed power for Red Dragonfly. Could it be enough? As we see the MODOK looking to be played on the left. He locks it in. Here's the swarms and the helicarriers. Good luck. Let's see how big those numbers can scale. You are sitting on another Shang-Chi. Lamby has priority, so even if Morbius and Collector on the left do shoot over that 10 threshold, it's not going to be a concern. You're going to add in 2 swarms, and then the helicarrier disappears. That's another 5 cards. So each Collector is going to go up 7. Each Morbius is going to go up 2. Oh, this is scary. What's in there? It's an Alliance! 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 The purple fart cloud with a last-minute second-guessing move by Red Dragonfly. It ends up being the downfall against LambySeries. GG's. Lammy's one of the best. Tough matchup. No matter who it is. It's top 2 cards. Top 2 decks, I should say, in the game going up against each other. Great way to start us off right here for week 3 of the Snap Judgements League. Ladies and gentlemen, stick around. We will be right back with match number 2. All right, we're back. We're back with the second match of the day, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to be taking a look at Derrick versus Kenny Loggins. We have had Derrick here before, but you may not just remember him. You may remember him as just Ken. Welcome in. Good luck. GG's. Here we go. As it looks like Hela, Magneto, Swarm, Vision. The Swarm throws me off a tad in the list so far, but let's see what direction they're working with it. Maybe this is a variation of like the Thanos build, the Thanos discard? I'm not sure. She-Hulk makes an appearance, so Hela, Magneto, Swarm, Vision, She-Hulk, as Deadpool on the other end plays down a Space Stone for turn 1. Drops the She-Hulk again, go to turn 3. And a weird world, so we're going to learn the other deck anyway. Game 1. Game 1. Weird world. What do you guys think? Should Weird World be permitted in all game modes? I want to hear from you. As Hope Summers drops and a swarm is just plopped on down. Mockingbird is a very good pull. Very good pull if there was something to make it rock a little bit further. But again, Ken's just going to have to skip. There's no snaps from either side. And it's an Affliction variation coming in with a Thing, bringing down the Swarm of Power. Yeah, Spider-Woman. It's Affliction Evo with Hope Summers and friends from Deadpool's side of the match. Mockingbird gives a nice power swing into 2 of the lanes potentially, but I like the call here of switching to She-Hulk. I do like the She-Hulk call. And instead takes a look at the total reduction of what can happen afterwards. Abomination enters into Baxter Building, so it's going to be just slightly advantaged to Deadpool. And because they're losing that lane now, if there was maybe a priority play, there could have been something, because She-Hulk would have only cost 3 at that time. Could have maybe played into it. But can we take a look at the bottom corner there with that awesome gold Jeff? God split on base Jeff. Gotta love it. Here we go. All right, one cube off of Ken. It just wasn't enough. And a limbo match. Okay, so there's Lockjaw. So this is full-on Hela Lockjaw in a 4-5 setting. I have not personally seen or played through Lockjaw now being a 4-5. I'm getting mixed reviews from the community about it being good, just needing to play around it. Think of it only it being a single turn card that you're doing in exchange for, but I'm not sure how it's going to work with this specific deck. Now, Blade into Cloning Vats is going to hit the Giganto and put Blade back into their hand. This could be a very nice cycle, because you're sitting on Giganto, Magneto, and She-Hulk. As long as they don't draw Hela this turn, it should continue to feel good. Blade to Giganto. Blade back in. They could either Lockjaw or She-Hulk now, even, for some extra power. Tough. You've got all the small fodders you need, plus time because of Limbo. Second guessing. Hope Summers into Cloning Vats could end up being a very scary play as well, because we could see a second Hope Summers like that. And if there's any movement card available like a Space Stone, it's about to get very energetic for Deadpool. And now Ken has to figure out, is it worth it to sacrifice the Corvus Glaive to be able to play Lockjaw into Blade on this turn, or play it out backwards? You have not pulled MODOK. You have not pulled Hela. And he's got the cards and the time to be able to draw it. There goes the Infinite and the She-Hulk. Great hits. Great hits. Spider-Woman comes down, hits 3 cards. And it's a swarm. Not quite yet. You gotta rotate out that Hela. And this is gonna be the time to do it. It's a 50-50 2 times. to getting Hela out between turn 6. Sorry, it's 3 cards in the deck. So it's a 1 in 3 2 times. And they say it's good enough. Goes for the snap, and Deadpool snaps back right away. Kenny Loggins thinks he's got it. That's a hell of a risky call. Let's see if it pays off. Soulstone into Onslaught Citadel. The Reality Stone ends Limbo. It has to happen now. It has to happen now. 1 in 3. Here they go. Corvus disappears out that Magneto and Swarm, and it pops out. The Hela comes on down. Magneto swings that giant Hope Summers over into Onslaught Citadel and brings everybody back with it. It's enough. It was enough to take off 8 cubes off of Kenny Loggins. 9-2. Just Ken. Derrick. What a hit from Lockjaw. Here we go. Here we go. All right. Simple Reality Stone. Sokovia dismisses Rogue, who hasn't been played yet by Deadpool. So now we've revealed the Rogue. No issues, I don't think, for Ken, though, on that. I don't think. Keyword. Here's a Space Stone. We're going to get the 1, 2, 3, and takes advantage of the White Hot Room. Deadpool's going to be in the advantage the whole game here. 8 spaces to work with and 8 mana. Sorry, 7 next turn. There's your fill. Cyclops. Corvus hits the Swarm. And the Magneto dodges the Hela. Dodges the Hela with Lockjaw and one of the Swarms also in hand. This is a nice play for Ken as Deadpool comes in for the snap. Deadpool saying, I'm willing to put my week on the line here already. We don't think Ken is playing any kind of defense that's going to be able to take down a couple of the big guys. And first starts with looking like if you're going to play Lockjaw into Swarm, maybe Sokovia ends up being a sacrifice depending on the Hela rotations. There's A-Bomb into Nida. 14 power. Soul Stone going to weaken all of Nida. And there's your Swarm disappearing, and it pops out a Colleen Wing to give us even more Swarms. Okay. Giganto gets pulled. Blade is still in the deck, but at the same time, so is Lady Sif. Lady Sif is still in the deck. So throwing in another rotation and playing out Giganto into the White Hot Room ends up in a really tight situation. Looks for the advantage. And goes for the rotation. Blob comes into Sokovia, eats up 16 power real quickly. Giganto gives the White Hot Room back to Ken. We get a disappearance, and once again, it's a rotation on through. Get more Swarms to come on back. Deadpool potentially regretting that snap now. Vision, Magneto, Swarm, Swarm, and Swarm. The question is, do you toss the Hela in or leave the Hela out? Now you toss in the Swarm, plop the Hela into one side. And hope you get some big effort out quickly and easily. And he holds on to that final Swarm and doesn't discard, and I mean, it doesn't toss it into Lockjaw for any last-minute plays. Hela brings back Swarm, Swarm, and fills up the board, guaranteeing all 4 spots into Nidavellir, making sure that that Vision and Magneto both play in the entire way. If they tossed in another Swarm, they had risked the chance of not getting that Magneto to draw out from the revival of Hela. That's enough. It is just Ken. It is just Ken-uff. Once again, with Hela Lockjaw discard, taking down Thanos. GG's to Derrick. GG's. Congratulations. You're moving on again. Appreciate you very much so. Great submissions. Great battles. That is 1 win for Thanos and 1 loss for Thanos. That is 1 win for discard and 1 loss for discard. Remember, it is all about the pilot. It is never about the deck. All right, we're back. We're back here. Game 3 in week 3 for the Snap Judgements League. I'm going to go over to someone if you've been on Twitter/X before, you've definitely seen our next player because they're constantly tagged all the time. Because one of the best parts of Marvel Snap are the variants. So I think it's only appropriate that we showcase one of the best parts of Marvel Snap Twitter, SnapVariants. SnapVariants coming on down versus Overdrive. Good luck. Have fun. Let's go. Jeff Storm, here we go. Hope Summers. We've got a variation here with some lockdown elements. I like seeing it. I like seeing it. I like seeing it. Ooh, boy. Ooh, boy. And Rocket Raccoon. This was recorded sometime in the last few hours because look, that Rocket Raccoon is in its new state. It's a 1/1. Is this lockdown Guardians? No way. Oh, that'll make me so happy. Here we go. Blade dismisses the death, so discard on the Overdrive. And SnapVariants coming in, having a head start in the Abbey already. Daredevil Guardians. Ooh, I love it. I love it. Hope Summers gets the card draw. Great Gamora variant as well. Got to give credit where credit is due there. With a Ms. Marvel to help keep the variation for Grand Central, get the extra bonus over to the Abbey. Maybe potentially block out Atlantis with the Storm play. And you're going to sacrifice the Ms. Marvel. Get all of the energy and try to secure the Abbey by turn 5. In discard with this amount of play, it's a little risky because they still have ways to drop power into stormed lanes if they are playing the Proxima Midnight combinations, which are taking over the meta for all the right reasons. Mobius is going to be a small problem if this is also running Zabu. But with 7 energy on the board, and knowing that Grand Central is going to pull a card, you've got to factor in the possibility that Dr. Doom could be drawn. So instead of banking on it, they decide to play into it and allow any other card to be the card. And it kind of looks like Overdrive is just giving in letting all of the cards play out just to learn more about SnapVariants' deck, because they've already lost the flooding. They're now winning Grand Central. Priorities on the favor of SnapVariants here. When you see Ms. Marvel and Dr. Doom, you've got to assume there's an Goliath in the deck. This is probably a retreat for Overdrive. And with 2 cards, both needing to have to land into the flooded, if this is a Hela variation, Variants feels confident enough to snap. $13 still remaining in that right-hand lane after reactivating the Marvel bonus was a big move. Murder World to kick us off, though, is actually quite inviting for SnapVariants. That storm means most likely they're going to be mistargeting that location, not playing anything into it for 2 turns. And a Bifrost, making Stark Tower an even more difficult location to work with and to ramp up with. Murder World pops off. Ooh. Iron Lad. Looking for the rando hit before the slide of the Bifrost. Goes in with the snap. Feeling good that they're going to be able to take over some power, probably with a Gamora proc into Stark Tower. But Overdrive stays to the left-hand lane, looking to get the bonus as they know the Goliath is now coming into the hand. Jubilee pulls Death. That's a big Stark Tower now. Now Overdrive knows that Goliath is in hand, and they have to fight for priority. With 13 in Stark Tower, this is probably going to be a Murder World play. Murder World allows Overdrive to stay in the prio with the knowledge of Goliath. As SnapVariants decides which direction to use their mana now too. It's going to end up as a prio throw, and it looks like it's going to be a point slam lead potential play if they go with the Dr. Doom. They do. They go with the Doom. Dracula lands into Murder World. And Black Cat disappears also. Prio on the favor of SnapVariants, but Goliath doesn't make sense because of that Dracula now. Looking at the Shang-Chi as your potential out. Trying to take a little bit of extra power on top. That'll put 12 versus 3 when all is said and done. Overdrive will flip second. So they either have to overload in the mid or find 15 somehow. Yeah, take the extra beneficial power. Here it goes. Shang-Chi disappears that Death in Stark Tower. Adds on 3 of their own. Here's 2 more. That's 12. Is the 12 going to be enough for the mid? Overdrive flips over. Blade, who discounts out that Giganto. And Dracula takes on the Infinite. It's enough to hold on for 4 cubes for SnapVariants. As we move on now, halfway through his life force, Overdrive has got to reach deep to try to come back against this Guardians-focused deck. Nexus is an interesting location for this. We have the Storm on the side of SnapVariants. And with Vesuvius also now in play, this makes it very interesting. If that Storm gets drawn, they could end up in a great lockout situation. Being able to secure in the cubes with Mount Vesuvius and then flip out the Nexus potentially. Could be that we've seen those plays happen where the Nexus swings the entire match. Looking at that Iron Lad as maybe even that potential hit is a pretty good way to go. But if it hits Star-Lord, if it hits, Rocket Raccoon, if it hits, I mean, most cards, except for, I think, Eliath, as it hits the Shang-Chi, which stays under that Black Cat threshold. And now it looks like it's a race to play into it as much as possible. The Gamora getting that 6 extra added on from Dream Dimension is the only saving grace potentially for the Nexus play. I don't believe Overdrive's playing any kind of location control, but they are playing a Magneto. And they've got to factor in for that Magneto too. Magneto into Vesuvius in particular could be a very dangerous combination. So maybe just going straight up power, even if it's only 8 with Gamora's new rework. I like the safety of that play. And instead goes for Gamora in Dream Dimension and misses as Jubilee pulls out into the Nexus. A Black Knight, a pretty weak hand being shown at the moment. But again, Overdrive does run Magneto. It looks like they top decked that Storm. They have the option to do that. Load in the Jeff and Nebula. 1, 2, 3, and 4 all rests there. Ms. Marvel still would land her buff. Jeff plus Nebula plus Ms. Marvel's going to be 9 power. If it's a Magneto that hits Vesuvius. There's no Magneto. It's Drac and Blade. As Ms. Marvel adds on more and more and more. Is it enough to hold off in the Dream Dimension? What does the Drac eat up? It only eats up the Mobius. And by 1 in Vesuvius, Overdrive takes 1 little tiny point, but not enough to go over the top because of the Ms. Marvel buff. Overdrive down to their final cube. Final cube, 10-1 here in round 4. Looking for a miracle as Nor Dimension hits in our first location. Attilan is an interesting location for Overdrive here. Black Knight, oh man. Attilan into Subterranea. Talk about your unknowns. And decides to storm into Subterranea as 2 cards drop from Overdrive. Now taking on those 2 energy from the Jinn. Storm goes down, and the Attilan Shuffle brings out for SnapVariants a Rock, Nebula, and Shang-Chi. Nebula's got to feel good as a potential play here. Depending on what Overdrive drew, though, could the flooding be secured for SnapVariants? Two Jinns are going to pop into the hand. If they play both of them next turn, that's going to give them 10 energy to work with. It's a Dracula. Dracula, again, very scary card. All of that unknown. And a weak draw for SnapVariants with just the Daredevil. Daredevil, Jin, and Jin. Plays it all out, keeps all your spaces open and flexible, just in case, as Jubilee drops into Nor Dimension, pulls out just a rock, no big deal. Daredevil, Jin, energy, more Jins into the hand, Jin again, more Jins, energies, 10 energy to work with, looking for a big pull here. SnapVariants pulls. Captain Marvel. Captain Marvel with priority. So only looking to rock 10 power in Attilan right now. Stop any potential Magneto movement. Adding on another 2 from Nebula plus 5 from Ms. Marvel. That's 7 in the Flooded. That's going to have to be dealt with by Dracula. Shang-Chi makes it 10. What drops into Attilan? Giganto keeps it for Overdrive. There's a Jin. And Dracula pops out. A Jin! Unfortunately, the winning lane made the losing lane. The Nor Dimension's final Jin created what Dracula needed to eat. And unfortunately for Overdrive, SnapVariants comes on in, secures the victory, and moves on again and again and again. What a savage, exactly, as they say in the chat, savage moment where, yes, I win. No, I don't. All at once. Appreciate you. Appreciate you. Thank you so much for your submission as well. We're going to get ready for game number 4. And to give a predecessor of who it might be, I'll tell you right now, pretty confidently, it's no big deal. All right, we're back. We're back. And as promised, it's not a big deal. You know, it's not a big deal to go into our next match. Literally. Because it's no big deal. No Big Deal versus PrettyChill. Now remember, No Big Deal is also renamed as Big Chungus, so that is going to be Kush for PrettyChill. Everybody likes to switch up their names. Curious in the chat, does your username match your in-game name? I try to keep mine consistent. Some people do, some people don't. Let's find out. Big Chungus coming on down. It looks like Mr. Negative, Jubilee, Ravonna, Wolfsbane going on with a full negative deck. Something different to switch it up for us. I'm about it. And Wolfsbane goes with a snap on turn 1. Wow. Sorry, turn 2. Already trying to tell Kush, I got this. I got my Ravonna into Mr. Negative. I got you. And they move forward. It's a Thanos deck. Kush has 13 cards. An Asteroid M for the control. Mystique already in hand. And a Hope Summers too. Thinking about the different variations of what could be potentially played out from that Thanos deck. Looking at the throne room, looking at the sewer system. Probably rocking some kind of Jeff, so locking down with Professor X into the throne room isn't viable. Here comes the Reality Stone to remove the movement of Asteroid M and puts in a Dark Dimension, followed by Space Stone. Jubilee drops and pulls out Magic to buy some more time. Great thinning movement right there. As they draw, this is 2/2 Psylocke, so we are looking at old stats pre-OTA. Very risky to go for that Professor X right now, but I understand it and I can respect it. That throne room is going to be tough to go over the top with without having your Iron Man in hand in this negative deck, if it is running Iron Man, which it most likely is because we see Mystique also. Power Stone then goes into the throne room as they Professor X the mid lane, and Big Chungus Professor X is the left lane. With a small advantage now, and the negative Iron Man, knowing that they're gonna reveal first, Chungus is just trying to figure out what gives them more power. Is it the Mystique? Is it the Wolfsbane? If they put the Iron Man down, that goes from 2 to 7, which will double up to 14. That 7 would add on with Wolfsbane another 7, which is 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. That's a 0-6 Havoc, and the Wolfsbane puts up the most power potentially outside of it. Debating about defense here for some reason, even though they're flipping first. Same power either way, Mystique or Wolfsbane, because of 7 on 7. It's the same doublings. There's your Iron Man, flips over the Wolfsbane. Here's another 7 on top. 28's the number to beat. Blob comes in. How big does it grow? It's 21 on the Blob. And Mockingbird and Shang-Chi keep it over the top. And unfortunately, NoBigDeal has a big mountain to climb to go back up and try to take down PrettyChill Kush. Both players feeling very good going into that final turn, understandably. As high-rolly as a negative deck can be, the consistency of Thanos, then and even still now, is tough to beat. As a Wakandan Express may actually end up being the downfall of Big Chungus on this one, because now they lose that reduction bonus from their Ravonna Renslayer. As they both play Psylocke. And a vault pops in. I like the magic play here. Remove that potential. Oh, we've got a snap even. And Chungus is like, not today. Backs out. Doesn't even retreat later. Knows that it ain't gonna happen. They draw the Ravonna Renslayer. They can't get those reductions on out. They understand what to do. They did the right thing. Round 3. Starting opening hand with Havoc, Jubilee, and Professor X. You've got your nice early reduction with Ravonna. That's gotta feel good. And again, Castle Blackstone pops in. Benefit on Kush twice in a row now. Remove that piece right away via Ravonna. And I like this Jubilee call here for the randomness of that RNG. Is magic worth it here? Is magic worth it in Lemuria? Or secure Blackstone? And they secure Blackstone. Jubilee comes down, pulls the Iron Man, and locks it for 10 in the mid. Easy guaranteed win as the big house gets opened up into negative zone, which really hurts those stones for Kush. Not feeling good. As we could see even Havoc come down right now with Sunspot and an ungodly amount of skipping. And that's exactly what they do with the snapback. I love it. I am all about it. I am all about it. Turn 5 Havoc Gaming. And Kush says no thank you. take my cube, 9 to 5, work it all day, going around 4. And a Slidey X-Man Ant Maze. Nice little start for Sunspot, taking advantage. Rest in peace, turn 1 Mind Stone. And Elysium with magic in hand. Is it worth it to remove it? And instead, they just decide to Psylocke. Go for that Iron Man on turn 3. Maybe top deck further? They also Psylocke on turn 3. And what pops in? Another Subterranea. Iron Man in Subterranea. With Sunspot being able to grow and double it up on top. And Professor X locks! Professor X locks the mid and flips Krakoa, which means the Iron Man's gonna add nothing on top of the next card, but Kush is gonna be able to add on more power. Tough pull. Tough location pull timing for NoBigDeal, also known as Big Chungus. As right now, they exclusively rely on that Iron Man double up. One on the Krakoa side, one on Aunt May's side. Let Sunspot grow a tad. And now decide, do they need more time? Is it worth it to magic, or does that help your opponent even more? If you magic into Aunt May's right now, for example, you save 3 energy, Sunspot goes up 3, that brings Krakoa to 22, and Aunt May's to 4. You're sitting on a Wolfsbane, which can max out at 7. As they drop a Thanos into Aunt May's, really contesting heavy on Aunt May's. Now with 2 turns and 2 spaces to even work within it. And again, Chungus whiffs and hits a rock. As they start contemplating if Wolfsbane worth it to do now in case if there's a tall top deck, instead they go full float and it's gonna be a race for Limbo and they top deck Mr. Negative. Either way, that's only 9 power being able to be added into Limbo on top of everything. That 9 would go to 18 plus 4, that's 22. It would not have been anywhere close to enough. New York, one of the most treacherous locations in Marvel Snap, causing indecisions on the final decisions. And Throne Room also makes a reappearance again. They choose to Ravona on the right. With an Attilan. And now you've got 3 difficult locations to work with here. Do you allow Attilan to proc off? Or do you remove the double up? Or do you remove the movement? Tough call. He decides to get rid of the Throne Room, knowing how tall that those Thanos cards can get overall in comparison. Probably the safest of all the plays, and look at the shuffle up and deal afterwards, lowering the total amount of cards in Kush's hands as they draw their negative now on 4. And have some floating ability to work with. No zeros have been pulled. You're still sitting on your Havoc. You're still sitting on your Mystique. You're still sitting on your Iron Man. As they slide over the Jeff and plop in a Hope Summers into Power Stone to go into turn 5 with 6 energy, Mr. Negative flips over the deck, puts a Sunspot into the mid for ramping power later, and they hit their negative first and foremost. Jubilee is a very big risk here, in case if it pulls that Mystique. But it's an understandable risk as well when you're down 9-4. Does the right call, the personal right call, in my opinion, of going Iron Man into Jubilee. It's just a matter of, do you also need to play Wolfsbane this turn too? They decide not to. Pocket the Wolfsbane, leave everything else on down, puts out the Cull Obsidian into New York, Mockingbird over into Attilan. There's Iron Man. Does Jubilee hit on the Mystique? It doesn't. It hits a Professor X and locks the lane closed. Guaranteed win lane now for Kush as they top deck the Mystique. This still can be won by NoBigDeal Chungus. This still can be won. Iron Man, Sunspot, Wolfsbane, Jubilee. This can be won. If Iron Man's put over into New York with Sunspot and Wolfsbane while copying that Mystique into Limbo, they could sneak out a win here. And instead just goes for the Iron Man only. Doesn't take advantage of locking it down. And that could have been it. That could have been it. That may have been the missed opportunity. Let's see how they play it out. Mystique plus Wolfsbane's going to add on 10 power into that New York lane. 10 plus 20 is going to go to 28 when all is said and done. 28 in New York. And Sunspot will also grow post. Oh, this is tough because there's only 4 on the board. 4 mana to work with. Sunspot's going to go up 3. There's the combination. Sunspot going up 3. Second guessing if they're going to have enough to go over the top in New York. With Mockingbird down, that probably is the biggest saving grace right now for Chungus to think that he's got a chance. And he goes in and locks it in. Jeff going to slide over to the right. And Eliath removes everybody out of New York. And with that, it's no big deal to PrettyChill. Because PrettyChill just takes down the big Chungus once again. GG's. No big deal. Good try. Lots of movement, lots of chaos, lots of insanity. It's just that purple fart cloud, man. It's just that purple fart cloud. Tough moment. Tough moment to see all the indecision of when things need to move, when, where, why, and how. But knowing that Iron Man was on the board, it was easy to read, but tough to not do. At that point, you've got a great amount of power being able to go over the top. Both players made great calls in those final games. We'll be right back after this short break, and we continue on into game number 5. Look at this. The chat has asked, and the chat shall receive. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to move into DevilishPlays versus Den. You got it. Let's bring it on. Good luck. Have fun. Here they go. DevilishPlays versus Den. Let's see what they have to offer today. Interesting deck by DevilishPlays in particular. We'll showcase it here by reducing the webcam for a second. It's a cannonball control deck featuring a couple of awesome Guardians. You've got Star-Lord in there. You've got Gamora in there. Very cool to see this style of deck here as they end up with an organic control lane via Kiln, which plays perfectly into what we want to see happen with Star-Lord. Here comes Nico and Kitty Pryde. Get the extra +2. Star-Lord goes from 2 to 6. Goes into turn number 3. Nebula into the kiln. Absolutely fine. Looking to try to control some priority here by moving the Jeff over. And ends up with the 6. Yep, keeps the priority. Beast bounces everybody back up. We've got Den running a bounce deck. Talk about switch-ups, y'all. It's Cannonball versus Bouncy Ball. Let's go. Now gotta choose which one's gonna be more important for you. Is it gonna be sacrificing the kill lane to use that Cannonball as a yeet mechanic? Or is it gonna be playing down the Iron Lad, trying to get some extra power in there too? Daredevil's gonna make the call for some control with Professor X in hand. I like the sacrifice of mana here to be able to do that. Good luck. Den thinking real hard about how they're going to bounce around all this, including the Hellfire Club, because once those zeros become ones again, it's not going to be a viable option. Here comes everything and its sister. Nico turns into an evolutionary card to switch over an Onslaught Citadel. Electra comes in to remove that Nebula out of the kiln. Rocking Electra Gaming. I love to see it, Den. Such an underrated card. And now with 3 different powerful 5-drops in their hand, DevilishPlays will have the luxury of information ahead of them. Could secure a lane. 2 cubes are already on the board. Den has to decide if he's going to be able to keep a control here. Fighting an Aunt May's. And we get a Demon, Hope, and a Kitty Pryde. Kitty Pryde and Hope, that's 5 into the Onslaught Citadel. Aunt May's has 6. There is the plausibility here of locking down with Professor X. That will secure locking that location. Sacrificing of the kiln. And essentially, we could have a Miley moment, ladies and gentlemen. The 9-power demon came in for the surprise. The demon that was bounced earlier. That ruins the Cannonball plan. The Cannonball plan is now gone. And they're contemplating Iron Lad to hit that Dr. Doom YOLO. Dr. Doom YOLO is the only way here. And looking to do it for 4 cubes is a tough call. Because they'd lose the tiebreaker. Cannonball would keep the Onslaught Citadel, but bring you a tiebreaker scenario. Being up only 3 in the middle lane. There's no way around it. Devilish makes the smart call. And backs out. Take the 2 cubes. 10 to 8. Good idea. Now. Weir Island's going to get a lot of activity. Lots of extra power. Great idea to keep the Nebula away from it. And Spider-Ham converts the shark into a pig. Simple mad reaction. Well earned. Well worth it. Let's take advantage of some knowledge here. Put Daredevil into the Muir Island. Los Diablos base is very scary here, but no cards coming down on turn 2 as we see a yeet of Nico Minoru and of Dr. Doom. That hit pretty hard for Devilish. Where, yes, a lot of this deck is wanting to keep those 1 cost in your hand, but not seeing anything get dropped on turn 2 might be a flag for DevilishPlays to keep an eye on what's about to happen. Hope Summers now drops onto turn 3. Los Diablos Place removes... removes Sokovia. Now, with 2 2s in your left, you lose your Ms. Marvel bonus into Muir Island. So just taking a hit potential from Iron Lad. Let's see what he hits. Takes the Star-Lord, so it's a whiff there, and Werewolf makes his first appearance from Den. Bouncing Werewolf Gaming while sitting on Ms. Marvel and Star-Lord with only 2 out of the 3 lanes eligible even for Ms. Marvel. We could see Ms. Marvel in the left trying to compete in that center lane, depending on if they contest Nebula this turn or not. Turn 5 is such a critical play for Den's bounce deck. And chat has corrected me, and you are 100% right. The pig is registered not as the cost in which it was moved up to, but it is registered as a 0 cost. So Ms. Marvel will apply. Thank you. This is why we do this live, and we do it with all of you. The pig is a 0 cost that will receive the Ms. Marvel bonus. Den thinking long and hard about what to do on turn 5 here, knowing that all of it's going to be revealed, but we just don't know the order. Rocket, Electra again, and Kitty Pryde. Kitty Pryde clearing that lane. It looks like we're going to have that double movement into the Los Diablos space lane. Nebula's going to disappear. 2 big hits for that Electra in 2 rounds. Here it goes. Kitty Pryde flips first. Then the Rocket flipping second, giving the Rocket bonus of an extra +4. Followed by the Electra to eliminate the Nebula, sliding Werewolf over into the right. Gives priority over to Devilish. However, they need to hold on. They can only play 1 card here. So Ruins is gone. And figuring out where that control is going to end up going is the biggest problem. If any on reveals are played into Los Diablo space, if they Eliath left, it's over for 2 cubes. They go for the Eliath on the left. You got to pray for no on reveals in the mid at any point, prio or no prio. And now, knowing that Nebula is gone, Den's got to be looking at the Ruins saying, I'm only going to have 2 power in here. Do I need to bounce this Werewolf back into the Ruins? Do I need to clog Muir Island? Los Diablos does look like the most likely candidate for sacrifice, but knowing that they also run Hood, Nico's already been discarded. Kitty Pryde can still come on down. That's most likely going to be targeted for the Muir Island. Keep that lane in control. Beast can also come back. And yet we still don't know 3 of the cards from Den. They play everything left. And he locks it. He takes the 2 cubes. Devilish with the read. Assuming that that Werewolf was going to be powered to the right-hand side. Makes a great read and takes 2 cubes off of Den, tying it 8-8 going into round 3. Ooh, big brain. Big brain move. And now a Bifrost enters on in. Play out some Star-Lord safety. Gets the Star-Lord hit. 2-6 on there after watching a Hood, Kitty, and Elektra come down. Now with Elektra temporarily gone, you may have a little bit of happiness. But they are pocketing Beast, which means they can bring that back into hand, and Nebula becomes a risk. They play it out anyway. Here comes the bounce. Everybody's bouncing. Turn 3. Spider-Ham hits the now very vanilla Pig at 4-6, and Beast bounces everybody back. Now the Pig is your protector on that Spider-Ham. Keep him there, and Elektra can come down a second time. The Storm on the left is an interesting idea because of the Bifrost movement, knowing it's a clear lane, if you feel like you could secure it. And it looks like they're expecting the Elektra on this turn to go ahead and nuke that Nebula. They guess right. Nebula is going to be probably nuked by that Elektra in the left. Storm secures no movement to happen. Star-Lord gives another +4, and now it's time to bouncy, bouncy, bounce. There's the Werewolf going to the right. Elektra brings it back over to the left, and Daily Bugle pops out that Kitty Pride. Oh, Spider-Ham, actually. Spider-Ham to re-ham the Pig a second time. Now, I do love the Professor X here because my favorite personal tactic with Cannonball this past week has been exactly what we might see in this game. We might see Professor X secure the left, Storm ends up being a sacrificial lane, and you can yeet over something from the Daily Bugle into the mid, securing the Daily Bugle as your lane. Your only risk is if they move Werewolf into Lemuria this turn. Professor X is going to lock all of the movement, and Elsa Bloodstone Demon takes the flooding. So now, with the Werewolf in hand, it looks like we might be able to see Werewolf get yeeted over and come in like a cannonball. Come on, Cannonball! Not that we're taking sides, but you'll love to see when the animation actually happens. Does Den have something up his sleeve to go over the top? Elsa Bloodstone hits the Iron Lad, which is a Nico. Sends over the Werewolf. It's not enough, and that's 2 more for Devilish, taking 2 off of Den. 8-6 at the end of round 3. Bounce looking to try and capitalize on as much as possible. But with the location control of Storm and Professor X, it's a much taller order. As Den looks for keeping priority potentially by playing out the Elektra onto the whiff in the Mini-Tries lab. And just picks it right back up again. We get our Falcon for the very first time from Den. With Strange Academy, Now, Strange Academy is an interesting location in this specific setup. And we get a snap. It's not enough. Not enough for Devilish to say it's worth it. But looking at the ordering of the locations, that could have been a very interesting setup. It's round 4. It was only 1 cube worth. I like the retreat. Not feeling confident. That's fine. You still have the lead. Still have the lead. 7-6. Devilish over Den. As Rocket takes the shimmy out of Aunt May's and goes to 4. OG Rocket Raccoon with 2 C's. And they think about the Star-Lord into the Vibranium Mines. Willing to take that risk and have all those ones come on down would not be the worst thing in the world. Instead, it goes for the target. He lands it. As now we've got a 5-8 pig in hand and Star-Lord hitting for 2-6 with great predictability from Devilish again. With a rickety bridge. And instead of destroying everything, decides to save it via storm. Looks like Den did a beast bounce potentially here. There's your Nico into a demon. Bounces those 3 back into hand. The beast will convert over from one beast into another. And I love the Ms. Marvel here. Leave the lane alone. Let the 5 happen. You're sitting on a Dr. Doom. We could even see a big sliding pig. Because they still have not played into Aunt May's. And they like the way that feels too. There's nothing to be eliminated because Devilish has the prio but doesn't have Nebula dropping down. Den goes for the whole kit and caboodle, puts down 4 cards on 4 mana. Here comes Werewolf into Nico. Nico converts the Vibranium Mines. No, it's a +2-er. Converts the flooding into Crown City. Converts the flooding into Crown City. Spider Ham back on ham, bacon and bacon action. Switch that prio back over again over to the side of DevilishPlays as they draw Nebula now. With the priority and the +4 of Crown City currently feeding, you have the option of floating power by using the pig, locking down a lane via Profex, but instead for 4 cubes decides that the pig is worth it in Crown City. Falcon's gonna bring everybody back again, bounce over the werewolf, and play the Vibranium down into Aunt May's. So now with 21 v 15, Devilish is holding tight. And this is for Den's life. This is for all of Den's cubes. This is a 6-cuber if he moves forward with it. Dr. Doom will have a double movement, so it will slide into the mid guaranteed on this turn because the first lane of Crown City will be clogged up. That's going to put in 26 in Crown City and 13 more into Vibranium, so it's 21 in the mid and 26 in the right. Is 11 power gonna be enough to hold? This is tight. This is tight. There's at least 2 on-reveal bounce cards left in Den's hand or deck. Here they go. Dr. Doom drops on down. 5 cards come from Den. Watch the movement. Vibranium first, Demon second, Rocket Raccoon third. Rocket Raccoon misses on target, but brings over that Werewolf a second time in and out of the lane. That's going to put Crown City at 26 at a dead tie, and it's going to be a tiebreaker move over with the Werewolf. And just like that, the Werewolf steals back the Vibranium mines, even though Devilish holds on to Crown City. Devilish knocks 6 cubes down, and Den has the lead 6-1. What a movement to try and keep that mid location with the extra 4 down off it. What a move by Den. As we move to Los Diablo space, Avengers Compound, Spider-Ham's the Star-Lord. Disappears that Spider-Ham, so it's safe to play the pig again. Into Crown City again. In the right. But don't worry, folks. There is no such thing as location batching. Instead of looking into it, decides to play out of it. Takes the Crown City and says, I'm not dealing with this today. I'm going to remove your 2 possible chances to Electra. You need to have Electra in hand if you're going to take the Crown City. You have to play it now. Iron Lad is also in hand, so that's a nice 4-6. And it gets rid of the flooding! Diablo Space hits the flooding! Avengers Compound gives a small little perk to having Gamora in hand also, as they just look for some good results out of that Iron Lad. Iron Lad could hit Ms. Marvel, Jeff, Daredevil, Goliath, Cannonball. Praying for the rage of a Ms. Marvel in the left could be what saves it. There's the Electra, makes her appearance as projected at some point. Iron Lad ends up hitting the Cannonball, which will knock out the Nico Minoru into the ruins. And now a guaranteed 12 on Gamora, with potential bounce elements on top. Devilish fighting for his life. Down 6-1. Den thinking about what he has to play out against, with the bonus of Elsa Bloodstone. We could see a Kitty Pryde bounce bonus and then return out. Seeing a 3 on one side and a 4 on the other, could be registering that Ms. Marvel, thinking about what he's got to play out afterwards. Instead puts the plus of Elsa Bloodstone onto Werewolf. And looks for the widespread situation. Devilish playing Doom for his life into the ruins. That'll be 11, 17, and 7. The unknown of Werewolf is the hardest thing to manage here. Elsa Bloodstone would give a bonus to something that pops in now, though. Followed by a Werewolf movement out. It looks like Werewolf is going to be used as a pawn on one of the sides. And we could end up seeing a sacrifice, potentially, in the middle lane. Knowing that there is a Doom to contest with. Den looking at every possible combo and ends up dropping 4 when all is said and done. And Valkyrie comes out, the 12th card in Den's deck, flipping over the hood, and it is going to be just short by 1 in the middle lane. If Dr. Doom was played into the mid, that would have been it. The Dr. Doom on the right saves Devilish, holds on, takes off 2 more cubes, folks. It's not over. It's 4-1. Den. And Shuri's Lab with a doubled up Jeff always feels good. Electra doubles to hit nothing, and a hood into the Mindscape. With Electra into Shuri's Lab, it looks like we're doing a double up and bounce combo. So I like this thought here of Storm in the mid. I like the thought. I like the thought. Looks like they're trying to do the full bounce and take advantage of as much power as possible. With Aunt May's also on the board. In a deck that relies typically so heavily on loading everything into their hand on turn 6. Mindscape plays slightly into the favor of DevilishPlays. Your doubles are gone. Nico comes in, puts down a demon, gives another 2 to the demon. And Nebula could be safely played in the center, knowing that Electra could not get back in there later on. And it elects to not drop it. Instead, let's Werewolf drop into Aunt May's. Iron Lad plays Mindscape, hits Daredevil, weak hit, into turn 5. And instead is using Nebula as a card just to pawn over to the enemy. You have Star-Lord as a targetable hit. Nebula, maybe with a little bit of luck. So Devilish's best case scenario right here is more plays into Mindscape by Den. The option of being able to put Star-Lord and Daredevil into the Mindscape and then Nebula to slide over would have been what would have been best for Devilish. Instead, it's Hope Summers and Spider-Ham in Aunt May's by Den. And now needs to try to figure out how safe that Nebula is actually going to be. Electra's going to be sent back over, which would only be beneficial of a 1-point power swing. I'm not sure I understand the Jeff movement, except for Prio. There's your got him target from Star-Lord, who takes it, adds it, slides it into the mid. And Jeff has now moved out, so the Jeff movement is gone. The mid is sacrificed, and that 9-power Star-Lord's got nothing to benefit with it. If Jeff didn't move, we may have had a play. But I don't know how this is going to play out. You have a 10-point advantage in Mindscape. Dr. Doom was just passed over, and Den has Prio. With Den having Prio, that means Dr. Doom could play on down. No issues. Valkyrie then would be hitting 4 targets on Aunt May's side. The only way to win is in Aunt May's right now, because Jeff moved. Jeff was there, that would have been a 17 lane. Would have had Prio. And ends up looking at just 1 play to go. He's putting out the fist bumps, y'all. He thinks it's over. I don't know what else could be dropped here. There's your Dr. Doom. Dr. Doom comes on down, swings over the werewolf. 3 and 3 in that lane. It's 14, 19, and 9. And that's gonna do it. DevilishPlays takes Den back and forth in a nail-biter match. Might be the match of the day so far. Great match to watch. 2 completely different styles of deck. 2 expert pilots going back and forth, trying to figure out how to mitigate around each other. And Den was able to squeak that one out. GG's all around. Ladies and gentlemen, stick around. All right. Welcome back. Welcome back, everyone. That's been the first 5 games here for week number 3. I hope y'all are enjoying the commentary, the casting, taking a looking at some very exciting games, both in the pre-OTA format and in post-OTA format of Marvel Snap. So I ask you, whether you're in the chat or you're in the comments right now taking a look on YouTube, I'd like to know, what would you like to see become a competitive deck that is not right now in Marvel Snap? For me, I'd love to see Ronin specifically try to peak back up into being competitive, but it is very difficult in today's meta. That's just my personal take. What is yours? Let's continue on, though. Let's move into not David, but probably his next door cousin, Gnome versus MaffuJames. Gnome versus MaffuJames. This is the point of view of Gnome. Let's see what we have to work with here. Gnome bringing on in a Black Knight junk build. And Tasty Kibble, also known as MaffuJames, is opening up with Human Torch. So we've either got Move or we've got Phoenix Force coming in. Simple Zabu, no big deal. That's a different game, though. Zabu and Iron Fist the Human Torch. In that ordering, with a Raptor for everybody. Now with Clogging and Clogging, if this is straight up move, this has got to feel good for Gnome immediately. We know they have Vulture in hand also. Vulture could be played into Savage Land. That would move him from 3-3 to 3-6. There's the Vulture. Makes his appearance. Adds 6, 3-9. Right under that Shang-Chi range. And ends up in a full skip. We see Doctor Strange bring that Vulture back into the Savage Land. Followed by Beast to bounce back the 1 costs into the hand. Black Knight finally gets drawn. A little late, better late than never. As Gnome has the Prio and Shang-Chi in hand. We could see an immediate elimination with a snap. Nothing to send over via Hood or Sentry. And that's the route they look to go. Put a little bit of extra power into the White Palace and remove the major play. Or not. Or not. Debating about being able to maintain priority past this turn. Gnome locks in just playing a Nihilist into the center, as Spider-Man 2099 and Iron Fist follow concordingly. And now they've got to factor the entire shimmy. Because the unknown here is Heimdall. Heimdall in the center locks Vulture where it is. Heimdall in the left moves Vulture into the center. The opportunity to Shang-Chi went from 100% to 50-50. And for 2 cubes, they think the Iron Fist is a decoy. A little polite taunting. And instead it goes Hammer, who hits Dagger over. And Enchantress to remove Zabu. Ghost Rider goes ahead and pulls back the Infinite to steal that lane back. And the Shang-Chi whiffs center. And Gnome loses his first 2 cubes. What an unexpected play. Enchantress and Dagger. Okay. Missed opportunity. Gnome's going to be thinking about that one the whole rest of the game. Thinking about how to not tilt that moment moving forward. Both players starting off nice with a Tinkerer's Workshop. And a Black Knight has got to feel good on turn 1 when you're sitting on Lady Sif and Infinite in hand. Tasty Kibble's already out. Tasty Kibble says, I'm out. I have an awful hand. Gnome knew he had a good hand, went for the turn 1 snap. Great call by Kibble to run back out. Good read. Go to round number 3. 2-1 knocked off. And now we have a Nexus game. Nexus in particular is interesting. Because so far we haven't seen any location control by either player. As big as those cards could be from Gnome, there is a very large fear as well with Tasty Kibble. Lots of Vulture movement, lots of Dagger movement, Human Torch even, but with no cards dropping the first 2 turns from Tasty Kibble, Gnome should be feeling pretty good right now. I'm surprised we haven't seen a snap from Gnome in this scenario. Constantly going back and forth. What works, what doesn't. The Hood would have to be reliant on top decking an Annihilus for Nexus to be worth it. Black Knight Blade Infinite. You got it set up. What a pull. And now they're debating the snap. Gnome is thinking, if I've got that 420 in my hand, plus a demon, is it worth it? And he says yes. He says, I have the combo I need now. If a Nihilus also gets pulled to send over that 6 power swing of the Hood into Nexus, it could be more than enough to save it. Kibble's just debating about how can I move as much as possible in here? What's going to be the cheapest way to get all the movement to happen? Doctor Strange is going to pull over the Vulture, add its first +6. As Blade hits Infinite, puts the 420 in hand. Probably what Kibble was most worried about. And they get the Annihilus! Now, with Kibble having priority and Beast, it would be safe to play Annihilus if Gnome was here, to guarantee that that hood lands in or destroys out of the Nexus. Instead, they're looking to use it as priority and have it be destroyed rather than being a clog. Tough call, but instead decides to float the energy and then go for a Nihilus Demon at the end, using all 6 on that turn. Their only 2-cost card is Zabu. So to use the most energy potentially, rather than the most power potentially, they play out the Ebony Blade first, followed by a Nihilus Demon second. Kibble drops the Beast, clears the lane as expected, followed by a Falcon and an Iron Fist. Ebony Blade secures priority, and they're going to Ghost Rider to bring in the other 20 instead. That'll be 40 power into the Nexus and 58 in the center if they keep the bonus of Monster Metropolis. I don't see how Tasty Kibble gets to 48. Because remember, Ebony Blade can't be destroyed via Spider-Man 2099. Even with Gnome going first, if Spider-Man 2099 comes in, is able to hit the Infinite specifically, that's still 20 power they have to go over the top. So it would be Spider-Man 2099 for 9 power, bringing the Nexus to 11. Be 11 on 20, and they'd still need another 9. They lock it in. Ghost Rider brings back the Infinite. Demon, Vulture. Vulture slides over. He can't believe it happened. Ghost Spider brings back the Vulture again. And Doctor Strange, yep, there he is, brings back the Vulture a 3rd time. Swing and swing and swing and swing. All you got to do is swing into the Nexus, but still end 8 short. 8 short, unfortunately. Gnome knocks off 4 cubes from Tasty Kibble, takes the lead 8-5, going into round 4. Black Knight on 1, Infinite in hand. Show me a blade. It's like you read it. Now you gotta cringe a bit though. You gotta cringe a bit. You had it, but it was only because of Hell's Kitchen. As Iron Fist hits over the Human Torch. If they're playing Iron Fist, Human Torch in that order, chances are você fala português aqui, ninguém entende esse porra, mas esse porra entende você. Você quer falar essa coisa no meu chat, é muito fácil pra mim, mas fala tchau. Então, Gehan Santista, Você nunca sabe quando outra pessoa fala português. Então, bem-vindo ao nosso chat. So, we continue on. And look at seeing maybe that blade being able to hit off a unique combinations. Cull Obsidian and Titan. Into Titan, excuse me. And now, looking to try to capitalize on still being able to hit that Infinite, even with the reduction via Titan. There's no Annihilus in hand, so there's no competition. The destroy and draw 2 makes it interesting. They choose not to destroy. Play it on out. Take the Infinite, which will give you your 420 blade in hand. Kibble's still upset about it, as they bring on over the Human Torch to double up again. Goes from 4 to 8. And Cloak has the double movement available now, too. The unpredictability on turn 5, with all of the movement, brings a snap. Huh. Interesting. Tight call here. Knowing that Vulture's going to move over is going to be +6. Human Torch adds another 8. The blade going down can't be destroyed in any way. And he only moves the Human Torch for 8. Puts down the beast, bounces all the cheaps back into the hand. That's going to be a big torch. And then plays down the Falcon for stats. Ebony Blade now being duped by Nico for a second 420, which is being reduced down by Zabu again. Brings all of the 20s onto the board with the Ghost Rider top deck. Knowing that Iron Fist is in hand, potentially Ghost Spider too, and 20 already resting in the center with another 20 coming, I like the play of loading up in the middle in particular here, because it's less likely with how these move decks go typically for decks to move decks to favor the right lane. So by leaving the right lane alone in the lead at 17-6, and playing up heavier into Hellfire Club and Hell's Kitchen, we could see a hell of a lot of 20s, and we could see a giant Human Torch on top of it. Thinking about all the different ways that we could see movement, because remember, the beast is reduced down also. Human Torch to 0, Iron Fist to 0, and Cloak down to 1. The Ebony Blades can't be destroyed. And just trying to guess, is it more valuable in the left or in the center? And they lock it in. Here we go. Ghost Rider brings the Infinite back into the Hellfire Club. The first Ebony Blade into the center. The Iron Fist is going to move the Human Torch from the right into the center once again, going from 16 to 32 power. 34 is the contestant. Another 4 over into Titan, and Heimdall's going to shimmy everybody over another time. It's going to be a huge amount in the left, but not enough in the center. Gnome holds on for 4 more cubes. Nice reads there by Gnome to take another 4 off of the tasty kibble. Grand Central starts us off. Simple hood, nothing too crazy. And a Fisk Tower. Man, Gnome's gotta be smiling. Fisk Tower in the center lane. Blade in hand, looking for a big draw. Gets a Sentry. A viable option for a 410, but no Zabu down. So a little bit scarier. Instead, just plays down the Demon, tries to keep the lead that way. Now you have Zabu in hand, and you think about the toss of Sentry. Zabu even into Pet Mansion's a viable option here because you are sitting on Ghost Rider. And Ghost Rider provides you, there we go, I like that. Ghost Rider provides you with the safety of bringing back that Sentry again, but by already putting 3 cards into Pet Mansion, and that right lane is something that Tasty Kibble is not favoring very often in these matches. I like the idea of putting 3 cards into Pet Mansion, clog it back up later, and then also revive the Sentry if the Ghost Rider decides to pull it now. Zabu into Ghost Rider to bring the Sentry back in the mid, and then take the 1 in 3 on the Infinite into Grand Central. We could see Vulture also get Doctor Stranged again, plus a Cloak again. There's still a lot of low-cost movement left in this deck for Tasty Kibble. There's bounce elements left to bring Cloak back up. Iron Fist, lots of chaos still left to go on this, even going into turn 6. They keep the Ghost Rider into the center, allow it to be capped off as a 13 power lane into the Pet Mansion. Vulture moves again, Enchantress goes down for power into Fisk Tower. Ghost Rider's gonna bring back the Sentry. Ghost Rider and Hood cancel each other out, goes to 10. The Grand Central pulls the Shang-Chi as Falcon brings back Ghost Spider. By 1 point, Tasty Kibble keeps the prio right now. With not a lot of power on the board, being able to move flexibly. The Ghost Spider, if played down now, only activates on the Falcon. Thinking about everything they have in their hand and in their deck. The highest potential combination of power. Ghost Spider into Iron Fist into Dagger into Ghost Spider. Iron Fist left. Yeah. You can't even move it all the way into the right. This might be it for Kibble. This might be it for the tasty kibble. That's your highest potential power on the board, even with the elimination tactic of Spider-Man 2099 in the center. To try to swing that lane, I don't see any other way to do it. Let's see what he pulls out. There's the dagger. Here comes the Ghost Spider. Pulls out 9 into dagger. And a Human Torch. The total is 16. When you add on the Ebony Blade and the Lady Sif, that's 18. And ladies and gentlemen, Gnome has taken down MaffuJames, also known as Tasty Kibble. Interesting, tough matchup to see move specifically. And you got to give credit where credit is due. It was great piloting on that Black Knight deck. There was definitely some locations that really were difficult to be able to navigate around at the same time. Unfortunately, it did not work out for Mr. MaffuJames, but it did work out for Gnome. So we're going to move on to game number 7 after this quick word from Twitch's sponsors. All right, we are back. We are back once again, ladies and gentlemen. Snap Judgements League. We're going on match number 7 of the day. Oh, this one should be interesting. Why? Because we're putting the boss on Spotlight. I thought that was appropriate. Let's go take a look at Mottelz versus GokaiBrown. Mottelz, good luck. Have fun. What did you bring to the party? And I already see an interesting deck. Moon Girl, Dazzler, centering. It's a Mocking Zoo deck. Ooh, I like it. I like it, I like it, I like it. Take a look behind the camera here. Sunspot, Ant-Man, Squirrel Girl, Dazzler, Armor, Mysterio, Rogue, Hope Summers, Moon Girl, Blue Marble, Mockingbird, She-Hulk. As Rogue steals the Mobius away, that's going to have to be a constant trend from Mottelz if he's going to be able to take advantage of that Mockingbird throughout the entire match. Moon Girl doubles up 2 Mockingbirds in the process and locks in 4 power into the kiln right away. Playing out all of the cheap ones to drop down Mockingbird 1, 2, 3 times. And Gokai runs like the wind. Looks like no potential Jeff in hand to try to steal back the kiln. Means that this is enough to have to deal with. Big House is going to open with a Soul Stone from Gokai. Now, the curious thing here, too, is going to be seeing which version of Thanos Gokai is going to be bringing in. As Dazzler looks to counteract some of the chaos from the Soul Stone, given the type of deck that Mottelz is running, as a Squirrel Fiesta drops on down very favorably, working in the direction of Mottelz. We get a snap. We get a snap right away. Mottelz says it is time to go ahead and get that Mockingbird down. Stop trying to get it cheap, and gets it out ahead of the Mobius just in time. Now working with 6 energy here on turn 5. On the one end, you end up clogging your Big House bright and early. On the other end, You look at where can you take advantage of as much power as possible. He ends up going the route of Blue Marvel into the center, beefing up everybody. Hope Summers gives another energy, so you're going to rock a total of 7 in this final turn. And now the Rogue, for a nice swing, being able to take away from that Soul Stone. With just a matter of what's left to pull with Moon Girl. Moon Girl's just there for a good time. Does 20 hold the Icebox, though? This is a tough call right here, but they take the Rogue, swings back that Soulstone power in their favor, bestows it upon all of the big house. But the Icebox, who's the only card on turn 6, is gonna reveal a blob, and that blob is gonna go over the top. The Central Park is now gonna stay at 4, and Gokai is gonna lose 4 cubes in the process. Mottelz got a 2-to-1 advantage now going into round number 3, 10-5, with the Mocking Zoo deck up against Thanos. Squirrels for everyone. With that squirrel now in Dark Dimension, that's a good prio lead consistently, which could end up paying off specifically against Thanos too. Easy to maintain that priority. While we only have an armor to play in the Pet Mansion, much easier to maintain the priority with a guaranteed lane like that, unless if there's a move mechanic via a Jeff. We do get a snap, sitting on, doubling up of that She-Hulk, and Gokai runs like the wind, bullseye. Says that's enough, I ain't dealing with that. Let's move on. Round number 4. 10-4. You heard me. And an Atlantis to start. But not for long. Reality flips it into Muir Island. Both players looking to benefit as much as possible, playing a lot of littles. Wakanda protects the Sunspot, even though it wasn't probably a threat. And instead, to help keep that initiative, decides to Squirrel Girl. Mind Stone drops into Wakanda, draws 2, puts a couple of squirrels after Squirrel Girl drops. Prio to Mottelz, which now reveals the Time Theater to give us a second armor. No ongoings for Rogue to steal to fill the curve appropriately. As we lead in with the OG Psylocke and Power Stone. Still holding the prio, Mottelz moves to turn 4. Now rocking Ant-Man and armor. And clogs the lane now. Interesting. Takes the lane clog now. As we watch Cull and Soulstone give the prio back over to Gokai in round 5. With Rogue in hand, decides to go full send skip, get 5 power added to Sunspot, drop the She-Hulk down to 1 cost while also sitting on a 2 and a 3. That Rogue can steal back from the Power Stone. We haven't seen any other super influential ongoings yet, but if there's a time for Gokai to play that Mobius, it's right now. It's just another Soul Stone. Time Theater gifted 2 Soul Stones to Yokai, so it'll be a cancel out Rogue if decided to be played. There actually ends up being a larger swing of power by playing the the Mockingbird. Mockingbird, She-Hulk, and armor. Armor for the bear swing in Wakanda. 19 into Time Theater seems contestable. And it's Blob into Muir Island. Blob comes down, turns to 17. Mockingbird adds to the middle. That's going to give Muir Island and Wakanda over to Gokai. And we continue on even with the extra bonuses. Mottelz loses his first cubes of the match. It is now 8-4 in favor of Mottelz. The stakes are high here in round 5. And the RNG of Tarnax becomes something to think about. All those stones flipping over is going to be a pretty regular occurrence, most likely out of Gokai's hand. Instead elects for the Time Stone to draw, which Tarnax decides to gift Ant-Man into being a meek. And float with the Sunspot into the center, going into revealing Necrotia. So Mirror Dimension in the center could either evolve into either Tarnax or Necrotia. Necrotia gives the advantage to Mottelz, though, given all of the ones. Armor converts into Hulkbuster, which absorbs into Meek, converting him now to a 1/4, as Mobius removes all potential things temporarily and then switches into Wolfsbane. Interesting play by Gokai, to say the minimum, of taxing out that 3/3, knowing you're going up against Moon Girl She-Hulk. Sacrifices the Mobius and ends up paying for it with a 3/1 Wolfsbane. Have a nice death background, because we saw the crash of Tarnax. The crash of Tarnax happens all the time with the Mysterio illusions. Brings it all the way down as Mottelz has to reboot Marvel Snap. Let me know in the chat if that has happened to you. Tarnax, one of the most problematic locations in the game. It happens to me all the time here live on stream. Doesn't surprise me that it happens in the middle of a tournament setting. Gotta reboot that bad boy back up, see it convert into the Colossus, and now we end up seeing the Crossbones in the far Crossbones Tarnax lane. Oh, that's great. Ends up going full send skip to build up that Sunspot in Tarnax, considering that Goose has been evolved in the center lane from what was previously, I believe, Armor. From the other Mysterio clone. Mio Mayo, RNG my. And Mottelz is putting Gokai in for all 4, saying, I got this. You don't got the reduction piece blocker anymore. I've got big cards. Run like the wind, bullseye. And all of the cards just dropped. All of the cards. Here's the Squirrels. Here's the Dazzler. Here's the Sunspot. Here's the Mind Stone. You get a Squirrel. You get a Squirrel. You get a Martyr. You get an Armor. You get a Switch Over. And you're going to get turned into a Beast to bounce it all back up again. What could have been a scary Dazzler now does not look to be anywhere close to a threat. Sitting on that She-Hulk. Sitting on those Squirrels. Sitting on the blue marble. Goes for the YOLO. Goes for the scary She-Hulk YOLO in the left. Here we go. Blue Marvel into Necrotia, adding up over the top. The Time Stone goes into the middle. Tarnax, which flips on over into Titania, which Space Stone, after being played into Tarnax, is going to flip the Titania back over to the other side. It converts into an Iceman now with 3 power due to the Blue Marvel. Martyr comes back, which is going to convert into a 0, which could be detrimental as it zeroes out that Soul Stone, converts on that Tarnax piece, turns into a Ghost Spider for 3 power. Here's the YOLO. It turns into a Hela, which reduces the power, but Blue Marvel tries to keep up with it. It's not enough. It's not enough. 4-4. Tie game. Mottelz versus GokaiBrown. Let's keep the game going here into round number 6. The RNG of Tarnax is just wild, man. Bifrost and Kiln opens us up. It is now a best of 3. Mottelz and Gokai. Looking to see how they can each out-micro card each other. Mysterios galore. With a Titan. Now be weary of that gray out in the Bifrost. As Mockingbird comes down as a 3/9, and we put all of the cards in all of the places. Interesting to clog it now. And goes with the Moon Girl. Mottelz, not sure what Mottelz was technically thinking at this exact moment, but Moon Girl, even though you're gonna end up with the double She-Hulk, watch the Bifrost clog both lanes entirely. Now with only a hidden 4 power in Titan, it's a 10-4 lane. So 6 power wins it for Gokai. The overclog in so many rounds is incredibly important. As Gokai whiffs on the Eliath, and now only technically has to drop 6 power into Titan to try and take it. Here comes Mottelz saying, I have a load of power in the Bifrost. I'm going to hold on here. I don't think you have it. I don't think you can read it. And decides to go with the surprise Blue Marvel beef up. It's not going to be enough to steal the Kiln, but it will be enough to possibly steal Titan back. Here they go. Loads up in Titan. It's a 10 power Thanos and a 1 power Mind Stone. That's going to bring it to 15. When you add on that Blue Marvel on top, there it goes to 10. There goes the Mysterio 4. And it's going to be short by 1. And Gokai knocks out Mottelz in a nail biter of a 1 cube lane win in the far right. Tough read right there. Tough read right there. But man, that Bifrost came and bit Frost Mottelz in the butt. Man, that's... we've all been there. We've all done it. 1 point, it always hurts. But you know what? That, ladies and gentlemen, that's Marvel Snap. All right. We are back, and I have something special for all of you, ladies and gentlemen. We have a two-handed match today to showcase. We get to see 2 different perspectives here on the Snap Judgments League. We have a specialty match of Fili versus Mercy, but different than any other match we have showcased today. Let's switch on over and take a look at Fili versus Mercy in a brand new two-handed format. This two-handed format allows us to see what Mercy is playing, which is on the top of your screen, and what Fili is playing on the bottom of your screen. So I appreciate all of the work that's being done behind the scenes to make unique, different layouts like these available to us here. I appreciate all of the work. So thank you so much. Let's dive on in and watch Fili versus Mercy. talk about locations to start, though. Man, oh, this does not feel good. Nexus and Weird World. Mercy ain't having any of it, though. Goes ahead and converts it on down. Fili, if you take a look at the entire deck there for a brief moment, you see that they are running Sunspot Havoc. You heard me right. In a negative deck. So we saw a variation of this being played earlier. Iron Man, Professor X, Jubilee, Magic, etc. Being able to take advantage of that 0 negative build without Jane Foster. Versus on the other side, oddly enough, a Hulk evolved and hybrid kind of lockdown. I'm a fan. I'm a fan. So, looking at how it all locks down with Professor X. Think of how the curve is going to finish out here. It was going to backfire tremendously because you had 4 potential growth on one end and 6 potential growth on the other with the advantage. Full float would have done everything for them. Fili ended up with the advantage and knocks out a couple more cubes off of Mercy. We're going into round 2, and that's a 4-cube retreat, which is tough. We say it here all the time. The toughest thing to do in Marvel Snap is retreat for 4 cubes. Looking at the top half, too, as they're sitting on Cyclops, Hulk, and Wave. Looking to wave out Hulk could be an interesting viable option here, knowing that Lechugia was on the board. Mercy opts to go away from that tactic, bank on Magic coming on down, and decides to put Cyclops into play first. With Professor X in hand, the constant competition for Sunspot on Sunspot is going to have to be an offensive and defensive play for both players as well, knowing that Professor X is going to lock down a location. We still don't have Nebula coming in at any point. Thank you so much to the kids Snap subscribing using Amazon Prime here on the Twitch stream. Appreciate you. As we move to 6 energy to rock now with a waved turn. And instead, we get a full lock of Limbo as Mercy pops out the Profex, secures the Limbo, even with the bonuses that happened last week from X-Men versus Avengers. You've got a large lead going into this turn. You could YOLO. You could YOLO into the center, go Jubilee into Professor X, but that's a scary thought if you pull that Iron Man too. Iron Man or Havoc. Havoc maybe to try to keep up. We don't know yet either if Mercy is rocking. Actually, no, we do know yet that they are rocking the Shang-Chi in hand because I'm so not used to looking up. I'm not used to seeing this second screen. This is so great. We get the Hulk drop on Stark Tower, trying to compete in that third lane. And Fili has to decide if Mercy has the Shang. We know they have the Shang, but do they think that they have it? We haven't seen it revealed yet from Fili's side. This is a 2-cube knowledge grabber. Takes the Shang-Chi. Eats the 2 cubes in loss process to learn that Mercy has that in hand. No matter what Jubilee pulls here, takes out the Havoc. That's great power. Merry Christmas, happy holidays. Moving on. Unfortunately, that ain't gonna be enough. But the 2 cubes of cost, absolutely were worth it to find out if they're gonna rock that in the future. Because now, Fili hasn't a good piece of information to learn how to navigate around what Mercy's gonna be able to do. So we know, because we're able to see both hands at any given point. But it's interesting to take a look at both sides and think how each player is also thinking. Think about it from Mercy's side right now, opening with Nebula, Cyclops, Professor X, and High Evolutionary. Putting down that Nebula right off the bat into Vibranium Mines. Again, we get the Vibranium Mines. Now with a Sakaar on top of it, you have to be leery of that Prof X being pulled down. Both players have to be leery of that. So try to stay on top of it just in case is the tactic that Fili takes by putting the Ravonna down. Neither player ends up with their Prof X pulled. Fortunate for both of them, but the Havoc is going to cause exactly that. Havoc makes it incredibly difficult now because you're going to scale and skip and scale and skip and scale and skip the whole rest of the match. There's +4 to you, and there's another 2 to you. There's a snap that comes on in from Mercy. Absolutely well-deserved. Havoc's going to be too difficult to navigate around with 2 power at a time out of this deck without having negative down. Closer and closer, we end up matching up. It is now 7-6, Fili versus Mercy. Both players again start with opening hand Prof X's. No 1-drops for the Evo. But again, Vibranium Mines, y'all, for the 3rd time in a row. Vibranium Mines 3 times in a row. What are the chances of that happening? 1%. Literally. Keep floating the sunspot. Try to keep up. You know you've got a Cyclops to deal with. Float and grow, float and grow. And now with Castle Blackstone on top of it, that's a really scary location. Looking to Prof X into maybe the Castle Blackstone as Cosmo adds 7 in there. Now, Mercy's sitting on all biggies, but only 4 energy. Sorry, no, 5 energy because of Castle Blackstone. So Mercy decides to snap, saying that I'm going to guarantee a lane. Whether we don't know yet, though, if it's the Cyclops lane or the Nebula lane. He locks in the Vibranium Mines. That's going to be a tough one now for Fili to come back from, knowing that Shang-Chi also exists. Havoc and Magic. Man, Magic into that center lane does not feel good, though, man. That doesn't feel good, knowing that you're restricted to 5. As Mercy drops a Doombot into Castle Blackstone, they ramp that up to 12. All the +1s add on from the Avengers vs. X-Men event, and it's a tie in Castle Blackstone on turn 6. If you're Fili, you're basically deciding, do you need to try to lock Limbo now? Do you have enough to lock and secure Limbo? Because Iron Man feels good, but where? The best of our knowledge, it has to be on the right. As Vibranium and Sunspot allows for scaling to go back over the top, and it's 9 to 8 in the center lane, no other way for them to scale. That's a guaranteed win now for Mercy. Fili has no choice but to back out for 2 cubes. 2 cubes. And for the first time, Mercy takes the lead now, 6-5. High stakes, and again, both players draw Prof X on turn 1. The RNG of this is insane as we get an immediate snap from Fili and Mercy snaps back. Fili sees the Psylocke into Mr. Negative line for turns 2 and 3 with all of the zeros still in the deck. Vortex gifts out a small null, but there's no destroy mechanic minus the Shang-Chi. Sunspot to the vault, and a Psylocke allows for that Mr. Negative on 3 to potentially be flipped over in Black Vortex even. Yep, that's the tactic. Here we go. Storm removes the extra 6 drop and helps to lock the flooding a bit, making it much tougher as we remove board space via expansion. Colleen Wing tosses out the Sunspot, and Namor for a blank 6 power flips over for Mercy. Iron Man would bring the flooding to 8. We haven't seen Cyclops yet. And Rogue for the power. There's the Cyclops. Worst possible play for Fili in that left lane. Seeing the Cyclops drop from Mercy. Little bits of floating is all it takes. There's your float. Flooded now is owned by Mercy. There's no Profex lock. And it looks like without a Hail Mary, this may end up being Fili's last stand. Wave comes in. We do know they rock a Dr. Doom as well. Keep reducing the flooded. The tiebreaker currently switches back over into the favor of Mercy after the Havoc goes back up. So all they've got is a 2-power Profex. This looks to be the end of the line for Fili. Fili and Mercy, high Evo control with Profex and Dr. Doom going up against negative with Havoc, Iron Man, Profex, all of the fun chaos along the way. Not going to be enough as the 14-power Hulk drops into the X-Mansion. The Profex comes on down to adding extra power and insult to injury. That's going to be it. Fili loses to Mercy after Mercy comes back and grinds his way all the way back to the very top. Tight match, but there were some really tough moments there trying to figure out how that Iron Man's going to have to compete against that affliction. When do you lock down? But when you've got 3 scaling mechanics into that Profex lane via Nebula, via opposing-wise, the opposing Nebula, the opposing Sunspot, and the opposing Cyclops, it's a very difficult matchup, and both players played excellent. Unfortunately, though, it did end up in the side of Mercy. Stick around, folks, as we take a look for our next match. Kai no Kai, because Kai Kai's. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to our 9th match of this broadcast for Week 3 for the Snap Judgements League. Ladies and gentlemen, I have a banger matchup for you to end with today. Let's dive into 2 titans of Marvel Snap. Braude versus HelaEnjoyer. A huge matchup of some stellar, well-known Marvel Snap Titans. Let's go ahead and bring them on in. Braude versus HelaEnjoyer. GG's, gentlemen. Good luck. Have fun. Let's see what happens. Let's go. Braude rocking a Thanos bird list, as well lightly dubbed. This is OG Variations. So we are still rocking the old Mind Stone and the old Psylocke. Again, these games are sometimes in two different directions. These games are sometimes set up on OTA weeks where they happen before OTAs, and sometimes they are after. So this one did happen before. But how are they showing off his tarot card back at the same time? Sitting with not a lot of stone option, just the reality stone. And can't even take advantage of it in nowhere. Instead, needing to decide what's going to be the Bar Sinister ramp play here. Is it a ridiculous amount of blobs? Is it Mockingbirds galore? Is it visions everywhere? I think in Braude, I'm looking at all the visions. And we see a snap come in. Sitting on all of those visions, all of those Mockingbirds, and potentially some stones on top of it. HelaEnjoyer drops 2 cards. We see the first reduction of Mockingbird via the Reality Stone, which turns into Lake Hellas, beneficial on the side of Braude. X23s, and an ungodly amount of them come down. This is our first destroy deck of all of the Snap Judgment Leagues matchups, if I remember correctly. All of the energy coming on down here. Flip X23 number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4. That's a lot of energy, my friends, and it clogs up Lake Hellas. Braude's gotta feel good right now, knowing his visions hold water. And even debates about a round 1 snap back for 8 cubes. The Power Stone will go up to 5. That'll be 9. Which means 2 visions will be dependent on moving into Lake Hellas. And goes for the snapback. Says, I will gladly take 2 cubes. I know I have got this. HelaEnjoyer then has to decide, does he have enough to go over the top in Bar Sinister, probably, more than even Nowhere. And he goes for it. We get a null into Nowhere. Carnages galore are going to eat themselves alive. Ramp and ramp and ramp and ramp. Looking at potentially growing, I'm guessing that Venom then also inside of Bar Sinister as all of the destructions come to be. Here comes the Nico Minoru just for some bonus extra fun power. And now, after all the visions drop, and an extra power on Hope Summers, both players have to decide if they're able to do the most difficult thing in Marvel Snap, which is retreat for 4 cubes. And look at the combo that Braude just played down here. Slides a couple of visions over to the left to secure Lake Hellas. That's a guarantee. Being that HelaEnjoyer has priority, the Professor X, I think, is just a very confusing play because I don't think Braude recognizes that he has prio. That HelaEnjoyer has prio. There's 8 cards in the deck, so Blob doesn't give as much benefit as thought. If the Venom drops on down and eats up the Carnage in that lane, That ends up being 4 that gets eaten, turns to 7, and then 7 gets eaten 3 more times. So that's another 25 power into the null. And he locks it in for 8. Here we go. Hulkbuster. Absorbing into the Carnage. That Hulkbuster Carnage goes up to 7. Dupes the Carnages at 7, which then turns into a 9. Keep ramping the null progressively. 1, 2, 3. Then the Death comes on top. 3 of those. That gives 36 added to the lane. That's 45. Deathlock is just a garnish onto nowhere. The first vision slides over. Mockingbird and all of the visions only total up to 36. Blob eats to 17 and still can eat more. And that's enough to give the center lane to Braude for 8 cubes in a big, giant opening round number 1 up against HelaEnjoyer. Oh, boy. That felt good for both players. Both players have to be proud of how they played that out. But Braude just had something extra on top. Yeah, Braude doesn't like any of it. Those squirrels really interfere with his game plan. Smart retreat. Smart retreat. As we open with an Atlantis. Okay. Simple Power Stone. Little garnish of power. Nothing too crazy to open us up. Castle Blackstone for 6. It's got to feel good. And a Xandar. Now, Xandar could definitely help out HelaEnjoyer if they continue to eat. Because that's extra power that would register for the null. We get 2 snaps. They both know that they have to go for it. You got to feel pretty okay going into this turn. Killmonger tosses out the stone. Cull Obsidian's already done his job getting in there, continuing to scale. Now we're up at 5. And Hope Summers makes an appearance in the center lane, potentially with the ability to slide out Jeff. If we see a large consumption, we could also see an early Shang-Chi, potentially. Yep, large consumption. There we go. Venom comes on up. Maxes to 10. On the one end, the Shang-Chi feels really good. On the other end, you do have to be leery of Death and Null. When does each not feel good? Oh, man, that is a good feeling Shang-Chi right there. HelaEnjoyer YOLOs into the center for Castle Blackstone, and it backfires incredibly fast. He's already in for 2 cubes. Divide and conquer the power. Braude right now, for lack of a better term, absolutely spanking the destroy deck after seeing HelaEnjoyer lose that null and just barely on that 10 power on top from Venom. Man. Even taking a little bit of a hit cost here, dropping down the center lane 18, rocking 13 into Xandar, also has got to feel good. Let's see how everything lands out. Going down to 18 in the center, but rocking 8 in the left. Here comes the Hulkbuster on top of Wolverine. Goes from 4 to 7. That 7 then gets eaten by the Carnage, who goes up to 4. And Wolverine lands into the left, which is going to give Atlantis over to Braude. And Death just is going to be short. Death is short by 2, which means that in those quick rounds, Braude absolutely quickly takes out Hela Destroyer. I was not expecting that match to fly through as fast as it did, but ladies and gentlemen, it did. Congratulations to Braude continuing to move on in the Snap Judgment League as well. Every single Friday, we have the Snap Judgment League. We will be casting those games here live on Twitch. If you enjoy this type of content, please, ladies and gentlemen, if you're on YouTube watching this, like, subscribe. If you want to catch it live, come join us on Twitch at twitch.tv/ItsGuestGaming. Great matches this week. Once again, Fili, Mottelz, Gnome, DevilishPlays, NoBigDeal, SnapVariants, Derrick, Red Dragonfly, LambySeries, Kenny, Loggins, Overdrive, PrettyChill, Den, MaffuJames, GokaiBrown, Mercy, Braude, and HelaEnjoyer. I appreciate y'all for sharing your games with us this week. Who knows what'll be here next week?